So
we ended up having our best membership day ever in 25 years.
yeah, and that really
It was
paid off.
crazy.
But I was definitely nervous. I was definitely scared. But to your whole point, the lesson is really just when you just know, you just have to jump and just trust and just know, like, if it doesn't work out, the worst that's going to happen is my dad is going to say, I told you so.
I have always come to realize, no matter how fabulous someone is in the beginning, you got to give everybody space and time, because time
Either.
does two things, right? It either promotes you or exposes you.
Yep.
What do you mean we can't go meet the elephants because they're sad?
It was like, isn't there one elephant that didn't like her?
Someone's got to be celebrating this.
Quite as sad.
You know, someone's got to be happy. Welcome back to another episode of She Means Millions. So, what are we talking about today?
I think unexpected lessons, unexpected surprise lessons.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did just tell us that, didn't they?
What about you? Do you have some unexpected lessons?
Well, I think one of them that comes to mind has kind of a double whammy, unexpected. I remember being in one of our EGT meetings, executive growth team meetings, with just the executive team, and we were all coming with ideas of, what is it that we thought, based on everything that we've learned from our community, they wanted most from us. And we were looking towards our platinum event. It was in December, I think, and the platinum event that year was going to be in February. So we were coming with some ideas. And I remember sharing with the team that one of the things that I noticed that I had been asked of frequently was, had I ever thought about teaching how to do retreats? Because we had done a series of them, and they wanted to kind of learn the ins and the outs, because as you know, there are a lot of potentially fatal mistakes that you can make in how you name it, how you message it, how you market it, how you negotiate with the venues, how you put the whole thing together. And so I remember coming and proposing doing a retreat on retreats. And I said, why don't we teach them how to do a 5-star retreat while they experience one? And we'll do all our best planning, and then there'll inevitably be things that happen because there always is. And then we can always peel back the curtain and share with them kind of what's happened behind the scenes after the day was over, so that they could see that, there are going to be things, no matter how much planning you do, there are going to be things that are unexpected, that you have to pivot, and the group becomes clueless, but then you reveal at the very end. And so it was a clear kind of curriculum of things to teach them over the course of 7 days. And there was some pretty good energy around it. And then I said, and so why don't we do it in Thailand? Do you remember this?
Oh man, do I remember it? I remember thinking, Sandra, I mean, that didn't sound big. That sounded gargantuan.
Exactly.
What?
I know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're doing monthly events and stuff in cities, and now you're talking about Thailand?
Yeah, and we're going to fly them to different parts of Thailand. I mean, we're going to go to Bangkok, and then we're going to fly them to Chiang Rai, and then we're going to bus them half a day to Chiang Mai, and we're going to
I mean, really, I was like, what?
I know. Everybody thought I was crazy.
My goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody did. You weren't the only one. Everyone felt like you did. And I really felt kind of surprised and a little alone. I mean, my feelings were a little hurt because I thought I had done such a good job preparing to present it to everyone, and it fell completely flat. And so I remember...
Wait, you mean fell completely flat
in terms
before it happened?
At the proposal stage.
At the proposal stage.
Because we always propose to the whole team what our ideas are. And because we all have different touch points with our community. And so we always come together on what we think will be value added. And so I remember just kind of like licking my wounds, tucking my tail between my legs and just kind of like going throughout the day and thinking about it. And I remember that night processing it with you over dinner, and I just couldn't get it off my mind. And I think I journaled about it that night. I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned, and ended up coming back and saying, I know I stand alone on this, but I really feel in my gut that this is something that will take hold, that people will really like. And we always had a thing that we still do within our executive team that, even if not everybody agrees, once we make a decision to move forward, everyone will support it. We walk out of the conference room unified, and no one ever knows the wiser once we've made a decision. And because we don't always all agree on everything, but I really felt like I was the only one in this one. So the stakes felt especially high for me, and but we did it. And I remember the night having the presentation to present it to the Platinum group all ready, and the night before, I thought, you know what, maybe we'll get 3 or 4. So I had 4, there's room for 4, and then, we would be going. And so there would be 7 of us. And I thought like that was a nice manageable size. And then that morning, I felt so ready. I had my iterations. I had practiced and practiced and practiced, anticipated objections, questions, all the things you do when you present something. And I just felt so good about it that really at the last minute before I went downstairs, I changed the PowerPoint and I said 12. We have an opening of 12. Mm-hmm. And took it downstairs and gave the file to the guy that puts it up on the screen at the event, and went out there and did it and couldn't believe it. I don't think none of us could believe it. It was a really happy surprise. We had 14 people that went to the back of the room to buy that. And then there was like, oh my God, how do we do this? Because now I'm thinking about renting buses and all this kind of thing.
And it was a high ticket offer. I don't even remember what the price was.
Yeah, it was pretty expensive. Yeah. I can't remember either.
Yeah.
Clearly 5 figures.
Yeah.
And but we did it. And it was the launch of so many things. We leveraged those lessons, that learning.
What is it? What is it about it now that you think about it now? It's over. That made them. I mean, it was immediate engagement, immediate pickup. And
surprisingly, I was like, people were jumping up and running to the back of the room.
Right.
And I remember I'm not even done yet. And I think the clincher was I said something, and I said, how much do you think something like this would be? And people gave outrageous prices, and that were so high that when I revealed the price, it was like, that's it. And the next thing you know, people were in the back of the room. And I remember them like, we're going to have to take numbers and see if we've even got space to add some of these people,
Yeah.
And I think what did it was, honestly, I think it was a pretty good presentation.
Oh, yeah.
But it was the curriculum. So, I talked about here are the 6 things that you're going to learn, and you're going to learn it in a luxury environment, just 5 diamond all the way. And once you land in Bangkok, you don't have to think of a thing. We'll get you when you get off the plane, and you are in our possession. You don't have to think of a thing. And I think that sounded really good. And we also talked about how much of kind of the, the free time we're going to have just to hang together and, become girlfriends and get really connected. And there are people that were on that trip that are dear friends of mine to this day. I mean, it really did cement that, because when you spend time with people and you really are away, and we did a training class I'll never forget in Shanghai in an elephant sanctuary. Remember this? And they put out a stage that was lifted about 18 inches off the ground in a rice paddy with elephants roaming around us with white tablecloths and not chandeliers, but candelabras. And we had training, we had a training packet for every module. And it was just like, is this happening? I mean, this is the most amazing experience. And then people told people about it. And before you knew it, every time we did something, it was like gone.
You saying this, really brings home for me the fact that we're going to have to add a section on our website about eWomenNetwork, unique, one-of-a-lifetime experiences.
Yeah, because we never do the same thing again, right?
Because the pictures are unbelievable for this. But, Sandra, I can say what I really learned from that was that you were offering an experience that other people had maybe dreamed of. One day that whole thing about one of these days.
Yes.
And all of a sudden it was presented to you in a format that also made it a write-off. It was a business trip with an experience. It was actually phenomenal what you put together. It was a business trip that required experience.
Right.
And the rooms and the venues and all the places that were selected for it was just unbelievable.
Right.
I mean,
and
it's a lifetime.
And remember, Brianna, you had gone to bed because it was really late. We were up in the bar. We'd been done and we were hanging out. We were in the bar, and I told everybody, you have to be there. You have to be downstairs at 6:30 in the morning. We're going to this place where we were going to do mud baths with elephants. And
we're gonna go meet the elephants.
We really get to meet them and
touch them and experience them.
And spread mud on them and the whole bit, and then wash it all off and have this most amazing experience. Remember?
Yeah.
And you went to bed because you often did leave the ladies alone and went to bed. And I came back to my room and the light was flashing on the phone, and I picked up the phone and they said that the guy that was
the guy from the elephant sanctuary needed to talk to us.
Yeah, and I'm thinking they're just confirming everything, right?
No, not the case. They were like, so the matriarch of the elephant sanctuary has passed away, and all of our elephants go into mourning.
And so we can't do it.
We can't do the excursion because they're all really sad.
Yeah, and this is not a happy moment for me.
But we're like, we just sold.
Elephants
This was a
are
huge
sad.
selling point. This was a huge selling point for our ladies. They were all so excited. So like, what do you mean we can't go meet the elephants because they're sad?
I was like, isn't there one elephant that didn't like her?
Someone's got to be celebrating this.
Quite as sad.
Someone's got to be happy.
This was like
figure it out. Get us the one happy elephant in the bunch.
Find us a happy elephant. Go get you a loner, borrow an elephant from someplace else, but we're showing up, and there better be an elephant to scrub.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was quite the phone call.
It was.
What do you
Brianna
mean?
and I you're sleeping on the bed.
Oh,
right?
it woke me up.
Yeah, no, but we were like, what are we going to do? And by this time, I'm thinking, so
And then I think what we had to do.
downstairs.
So then they said, okay, I guess we had to change location, and then in order to do that, they had to change the time. So it was already communicated to them to be downstairs bright and early, but I think it got moved to later in the day so that we could see a different tribe of elephants.
Right.
Is what it was. And then we're calling all of the rooms at like 11 o'clock, like, hey, great news, you get to sleep in a little bit in the morning.
We were able to move the time.
Yeah, yay!
Because they were kind of like, gosh, it's so late. We'd been in the bar and everything. Oh, my God, it's going to be hard to get up. And we leveraged that, and we went through the entire thing without anybody knowing.
Yeah.
And then at dinner that night, we did the big reveal.
Yeah.
Like, here's how you manage through it.
Yeah. And all the ladies were super relieved because we had been traveling that day. So we had like a long bus ride to get to that location, I think.
Yeah.
And so, hey, just wanted you to know you can sleep in a little bit tomorrow.
Yeah.
Every single one of those 15 or 16 ladies had to get a phone call.
Yeah.
And then we did. They pulled it off. They found us some happy elephants.
They did find us some happy elephants. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All the things that you go through, but it had a lot of lessons, didn't it?
Yeah.
And then the outcome of that was, we can do these most amazing trips. And the next thing you know, we planned one for Singapore and Bali, and the next thing you know, we're going to Cape Town, and we're doing a South African safari, and the next thing you know, we're doing a French Riviera cruise on the Mediterranean, with everybody that has this beautiful, sweet
experience. That's what it is. People buy experiences.
Yeah. That they can also learn from.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it really speaks to, though, your pre-framing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you brought up the whole notion we're going to go to Thailand, framing-wise, it was so out of like, what? It felt just so big.
Yes.
And now, I realize just how incredibly special it is because of the other things that we do now.
Right.
Where we include experiences and, learning to do a retreat or learning anything as relates to your business and surrounding it with a out-of-box, thought-out experience.
Right.
Do you feel like you're drowning in your business? Like you're doing everything and something has to give, but you're afraid it might be you? What if I told you there's a network of over 500,000 women entrepreneurs, all dedicated to supporting each other? A network of women helping women. I'm Sandra Yancey, founder of eWomenNetwork, and I'm inviting you to join us and become a member. eWomenNetwork.com. We can't wait to meet you.
And I think, and what they tell us now is they just know that they're going to be so taken care of at such, all the little minute details, and they just have to show up, and we've got them.
On that Thailand trip, I also remember a bus that they had pick us up.
Oh, yeah, it was the first bus.
This is back to how you have to advocate for what you expect. But I mean, we just told them that bus is totally not acceptable.
I said nothing to the attendees.
Yeah.
It was the bus. They picked us up from the hotel to take us to the first venue we were staying. And while I'm in that bus, I'm just taking little pictures, that nobody can see me taking pictures, and I am sending them in and saying, this is unacceptable, and tomorrow I need a beautiful bus.
A beautiful bus. Yeah, it was just a ragtag bus.
It was
just beneath the experience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We said nothing. Nobody said anything.
And
but then the next day when we got this beautiful bus, then I revealed the lesson.
Yeah.
So here's the thing that had to happen yesterday, in order to have this bus today. So, and there were such powerful aha lessons outside of, you couldn't have planned some of those things to happen.
Yeah.
Right. To teach how you recover from it and never let them know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was big.
Yeah.
I think one of my big, as you navigate to it, and it was because of COVID, and we had to pivot, and we did our first virtual event. And people don't realize because we had never produced a big virtual event. The whole notion that we'd be successful with it was like, we have nothing telling us that we'll be successful with this. No sign.
Right.
And even doing small little local events, with a virtual concept, it was tough.
Yeah.
To then go ahead and produce something that's multi-day virtual.
And a 6-figure production tag to do it. So it wasn't a small risk. It was a major risk at a time in which revenue was shifting because the business model was shifting.
Yeah, it's amazing too. It cost as much as a conference, the national conference.
Mm-hmm. It did.
But in a virtual format.
Mm-hmm. We had to fly everybody, and I think the first one we actually didn't fly people. It was actually done in Dallas, now that I think about it, the very first one. But we still had the hotel, to set the whole thing up. Yeah. It was, and then we scaled it and scaled it and scaled it. How many did we do of those Success Reimagined?
4, I think. We did that first one in Dallas at the hotel, that first Ignite. And then we did North Carolina. And then I think we did 2 in the South Carolina location.
Right. Mm-hmm. Where we had to fly the whole team.
Yeah.
We got one big house
that
had, 6 bedrooms, and we went shopping, got there the night before, so we had all of our snacks and everything, and everybody had their own bedroom and bathroom. And
that event was a grind, but it was a fun grind.
Yeah.
I think that's the beauty of being able to work with people that you love.
No question. Can you imagine being with people that you can't wait to be done with them, and know that you have to live with them, and it
made it really special.
But
it was a lot of work, though.
It was also an interesting period when I think back, because usually, Sandra, you and I, or 3 of us, will agree on something. We'll agree. And this was one where, honestly, I got to give you credit for it, because I wasn't for it.
No, you weren't.
I wasn't. I just felt like, again, my words were, we have no proof.
Right.
To even point to this being successful for us.
Right.
And before we cover our expenses,
how many tickets do we have to sell?
Yeah.
Yeah. And in short order, we did it in 3 weeks. That's what was unique about it. You had just come back from...
Yeah, I remember. So COVID, the shutdown happened while I was on my baby moon.
Yes.
I was pregnant.
Yes.
And then I had Tatiana that following August. And my first day back from maternity leave was the first day of the challenge. And I remember being on maternity leave, being on calls, talking about what are we going to do?
Yeah.
You know, and
Well, I'm staying with
you
you,
were staying with me.
trying
Yeah.
to take care of you and the
Yeah.
baby, and then retreating to my room and working like crazy, trying
Yeah.
to learn what is a Facebook challenge, because people said that's how you fill it.
Yeah.
You know, you have to do a challenge. Well, what's a challenge? So I'm like signed up for all these challenges to kind of watch,
Yeah.
find what were the threads that looked like they were the must-haves, and then how do I make it our own with our, and then build for that, and then turn around within, it was all done in 3 weeks.
We did a Facebook challenge and sold the event. And a few weeks later, we did the event. And then we sold a $10,000 offer that we had never done before.
Almost 50 people bought it.
Yeah. Crazy.
And, you know, kudos goes to also Sage, the virtual event company.
Yes,
Berry and Blue. You know
because
what
they
I mean?
really held our hands through it. They knew we had no idea
No
what we
idea.
were doing. You know,
Yeah, they were fabulous. But it was, you know, it was a turning point because, to your point, whether or not we agreed with it or not, once the decision was we're doing this, all right, everybody jump on board, including me.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
sure.
And you're working on the production to pull the thing off. Man, that was, you know, what does that say about risk and opportunity? You know what I mean? You know, the things that you feel really strong and passionate about. You know what I mean?
And I think that is, you have to get really quiet. You know, it's an interesting thing. I've thought about mentioning this on other shows, and I haven't, and because it hasn't. It's seemed like it fits, but not as relevant as this moment does to me. And that is that, you know, one of the things that I know most people do is they take a shower every morning. You know, and I don't take morning showers, as you know. I take my showers at night. And I take my shower at night for a lot of reasons. One is I love getting in bed fresh. You know what I mean? I just love putting on my pajamas and being clean and just feeling like I'm getting into the bed fresh. I love that. But the truth is, it also helps me wash off the day. Mm-hmm. There's a mental cleansing of, okay, you know, all the worries, all the strife, all the frustrations, all the everything, I get to wash these away, kind of thing. And it also really relaxes me. Mm-hmm. You know, it really quiets everything down. I take a nice hot shower, you know, and I feel ready. My muscles are just ready to just really, you know, soak into the pillow, you know, and just fall asleep. But for me, it has been a coping mechanism when I feel alone or lonely or a little unsure. The power of a shower has always just been really good for me. One of those little self-care things that really helps me with my stress.
Yeah. What about you, Brianna? What stands out to you in terms of, you know, lessons, learning experience behind the scenes that you were feeling something and the outcome became something else?
Yeah. Well, anytime I advocate for a new idea or something we haven't done before, I get really scared and really nervous. The first one that comes to mind was our 25th anniversary sale. I was like, we are going to do this. We're going to do a flash sale. So it was our 25th anniversary in September. And so I was like, on the 25th of September, we are going to do a flash sale for our membership, which has always been a no-no. You have always been anti-membership sales or discounts, any discount for that matter of any kind. It's always, you know, you add value. You don't discount your service. You just add value to your service. And I was like, this is going to be so different and it's going to be huge. But when I knew that there was some kind of hesitation around, I don't think this is going to really work. I don't think this is going to pay off the way that you want it to. I was really scared, like, and I really
Did you think about who you were going to tell first?
Who I was
Kim
going to
or
tell
me?
first?
Did you have any thought around that? Or
I think I called you.
you did, I believe.
Yeah, I did call you because I already knew how you felt about it. I already knew that he was going to be like, no. And I knew that if I could sell you on it, then you could sell him. That was my belief.
As you know, like, and you mentioned it briefly there, but we just have never discounted our membership
Ever.
pricing.
And Brianna was saying, but that's the message.
That's why.
That's why we do it, because we've never done it.
And it's
our
truly
25th anniversary.
a one-time thing, and it'll never happen again.
And you concocted this while we were on vacation.
I did.
We were on a cruise. So she was like at the office, you know, putting all the components together, and we come back and you're like, okay. And it's like the 1st of September.
Yeah. So, you know, and I was like, I needed the official buy-in, you know, which took a little while to get, admittedly. And I was like, originally I wanted to do it on our actual anniversary on the 18th. And I just couldn't get the buy-in fast enough to then turn around and pull off the ads campaign and the marketing materials and the emails and all of the things associated with really making it successful. And so I couldn't make it happen by the 18th. So waiting and doing it on the 25th actually almost worked out better.
It did.
And it worked out better not only because of the messaging, the 25th of September, 25% off for our 25th anniversary, but it was also towards the end of the month. And when you have a company like ours, where you have managing directors all over the country hosting events all throughout the month to sell memberships, what we didn't want to do was do some kind of a promotion that would take away from their success. And so what this ended up being was an end of the month push for them, because by that time, most of their events were over. And so strategically, it ended up being way better, not only for the company, but for everyone involved, all of the tentacles and everybody involved, because every managing director at this point had people that were prospects that were thinking about membership, but maybe hadn't pulled the trigger.
Right.
And they were able to close out the month really strong because of that. So
we ended up having our best membership day ever in 25 years.
Yeah. And that really paid off.
Crazy.
But I was definitely nervous. I was definitely scared. But to your whole point, the lesson is really just when you just know, you just have to jump and just trust and just know, like, if it doesn't work out, the worst that's going to happen is my dad is going to say, I told you so. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Which is pretty bad.
Which is what I can't stand that.
I know.
I can't stand being wrong. You know, like that is one thing about me. I don't want to be wrong. If I'm gonna gun for something, I want to nail it.
It was really important.
Give you kudos and congratulations.
You did, and I appreciate that.
It really made it happen, you know.
Yeah, but you know the other big mistake though
What?
that we haven't talked about, which I think we should, because I know I'm not the only one that's done this, but I think I've learned I should not hire people.
Oh, yeah, you shouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah. I have made some
you
really
100%.
bad hires, man. And I don't know. I'd like to think I've learned from my mistakes, but I just can't pick them, you know? And
We'll go through that. I mean, that is, you know, between Sandra and I, we've hired really hundreds of people over our careers. You know, when I think about the agency and you with LexisNexis and the Mead Corporation, what you did there. You know, but I will tell you, I have always come to realize, no matter how fabulous someone is in the beginning, you got to give everybody space and time, because time
either
does two things, right? It either promotes you or exposes you.
Yep.
And you've got to be willing to, you know, like how they see me that first week or whatever the case may be, you know, and you're so caring and giving that you want to see them have great success, as we do. And in the past, I can't say this happens now, but in the past, you would like elevate them into areas that they're like, oh my God, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Moving them too quick.
What I thought I was doing is I thought I was getting people excited and enrolled and being like growing with us, you know, but what I didn't realize that I was doing in the process of trying to get somebody like to see the vision of how you could grow with us, it was almost giving them a sense of expectation and maybe even a sense of entitlement. And that has always bit me in the butt, not only with W-2 employees, but even with contractors, you know, like I have brought on contractors that regardless of whether, because hiring friends is a whole other mistake that I will never do again, but regardless if it's a friend I've hired or not, I've had contractors that have come in to work with us who I love collaborating with them, who could help our members, who I have promoted into, you know, doing co-branded offers, who I have then said, oh, this was a really big hit. Now let's get you onto the stage. And it just always ends horrifically. It ends horrifically. And so that's a whole other lesson too, is not working with friends, not getting people to how do I want to say it? It's almost like you don't want to give people too much exposure. That sounds harsh. It sounds like a negative thing to say.
Well,
That's not
I think we set such expectations that they've come in feeling like they really don't have to perform because it's expected that I'm going to go. You know, they already told me where I'm going to go next. So I don't really need to prove myself so much. There's an element in there of that or something.
Yeah, and I think when you do give people too much visibility, the entitlement does kick in a little bit, is what I've experienced. When I have elevated contractors too much and given them too much, I don't know, visibility or kudos, it's almost like, oh, I don't have to work as hard.
Well, it really goes to their head, too.
Yeah.
I mean, in their mind, they have now elevated themselves, above your expertise.
Yeah.
It moves from collaboration where we both need each other to you need me.
That's what it is. It's this energy shift.
Yeah, it's an energy shift where it's all like, we're going to be so great together. We're such a great team to now, wait a minute here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there has been a weird energy shift I've seen.
And I so want to lift people up and give them that, vision of what they could be and see the best in people. And I do still want to do that. But then there are times when it's bit me in the butt, So I'm still trying to figure out that balance of how can you get people excited about the vision and the growth without what's the word I want to use? Without
Extending?
Overextending, to the point.
My advice is that whole thing, better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all.
Yeah.
You have such a great heart for people. Would hate for you to ever give that up, Brianna, because there are those people out there that will get it, that will know, we're great together. It is in the togetherness, and it's better to have a little bit of something really big than 100% of nothing. So when we can come together, we'll build something really great. And there's enough people out there that get it sometimes. And to be honest, it could be, hate to say this, but I do feel, could be a little bit of age. You know what I mean? When you've been around and you've had some real tough times and had some hard knocks, you appreciate when something kind of hits and really, and you understand that, boy, this is a really great kind of partnership. And when you haven't had that, it's easier sometimes to say, they need me, kind of thing.
Yeah, I've experienced that now multiple times. It's been a hard lesson to learn, but I think this last time that it happened, most recently with one of my best friends, I never saw it coming, and that to me was the realization of wow. It was actually Travis who had to say to me, you always do this with your friends. You always start working with friends, because I do. I work with my family, so to me it's natural. Like, what do you mean you can't just communicate when something doesn't feel good anymore? You have to have a falling out or freak out or get weird about it. Like, why is it got to be weird? Why can't you just have a conversation and then just fix it and start over? Like, that's what we do in the family.
Right.
But friends aren't that way. Blood is thicker than water, is what I've had to learn. And Travis pointed out a handful of relationships with friends that I've started doing work with or business with, and none of them end well. And so I have now learned that there is a boundary and a line that you have to keep, and you don't want to cross that. As much as it could be tempting and as much as you want to, you can support your friend's business, but don't go into hardcore collaborations with people, because it just will not ever end well. It just won't.
I remember having a lesson in high school. I worked for a men's clothing store in Dayton, Ohio, and one of the sales guys was promoted to assistant manager, and we were good friends. And I remember one time he told me, he says, Kim, listen, I know we're friends and all that, but with where I'm going in the company, I really can't hang out with you like I have in the past. Now, he handled that wrong. He didn't have to say it that way, but it was his way of saying, I'm an assistant manager. I'm going to go to manager, and we just can't be buds. Where you, he was learning and didn't know the proper way to manage that with me. He could have easily just on his own just restricted or not had me, go hang out with him like we used to hang out. He could have done it without ever saying anything. Just,
Yeah.
But the point of the matter is, his manager was trying to tell him, man, you got to create a little bit of distance here so you don't lose respect. Well, he wasn't losing respect, but maybe they thought that we were too playful as two guys working in the store, joking and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I know in business, it's just very important that you don't lose the fact that you are the business owner, or you are the leader.
Yeah.
And, and you've heard me say this at the company. I mean, I love Michael Jackson, and I refer to Sandra as Sandra is our Michael Jackson, meaning that everything needs to evolve around supporting her. And as you move into your role, and develop, everything will have to evolve around supporting you. Supporting the vision, supporting where it's going, supporting all the new initiatives and those kinds of things. Not that other people can't contribute, and they do.
Yeah.
But it's how it evolves.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes. And I just want to say again, I think these were lessons that you needed to learn. And I don't want you to not try, because I think there's some really great relationships out there that will get it, will understand it, and will be really valuable, and you'll go into them with some shifts of things a little bit different too that will make it. Sometimes you just got to keep trying versus giving up.
Yeah, I would like to think that that's the case. It's interesting, though, because I've even observed you, and don't want to call you out here, but you got some walls.
I have walls.
You do.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah, because you can be friendly and have relationships and collaborate, but there aren't very many people that really get in.
Yeah.
And I think that it's because you have been burned so many times as well. And it's impossible, I think, when you've been burned in business by people that you're really close to, that you think you have a great personal relationship with, that you've laughed with, you've cried with, you've been confided in. And then when they turn around and burn you, it's really hard to not let those scars turn into walls and create a barrier, And it is, I think, a cost of being successful, unfortunately. Yeah. I think we're all going to get burned, and you just kind of learn the hard way that when it comes to business, it really does, unless it's family, which even then can be iffy. We have clients who have opted to try to work with family, and it's ended horrifically for them too.
Yeah.
And so it really is the exception and not the rule. And if you know that it's the exception, that it's going to work out, and you go into it knowing that, you have to be willing to deal with the consequences of that.
Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, I think one of the dangerous signs for families working together is if you feel that a family member isn't pulling their weight.
Yeah.
Like, I've never felt that with you. Like, I've never had that experience. I know how dedicated you are and all that. I'm just saying, but I also know families, because they've talked to us about it.
Yeah.
Who feel like their, son or daughter, whatever it might be, is not pulling their weight, or is coasting, or
taking it for granted.
Yeah,
making assumptions that they're different, and,
Yeah.
And you already know that wouldn't work here.
No, for sure. Been there, done that. High school, getting fired, So yeah, no, I think it's, having defined roles and knowing what you have to contribute isn't critical. And the minute that it starts to not feel good, it needs to be communicated. I think that's the thing that I have found with my past relationships. And thankfully I was able to mend one of them. But I did say to her, I said, this isn't the first time I've been here. I've experienced these kinds of relationship fallouts before, from personal work relationships that have fallen apart, and then we lose everything. We lose the business relationship and the personal relationship because there's just no mending it, because it gets too muddled. But that's not been the case with my family, because we're able to communicate. And so what is it about me that you didn't feel like you could communicate this to me before it boiled over into this? Like, why did you not say something sooner before it had to get to this boiling point where now it's, what is it about me? I want to know for my own personal development. And she couldn't answer the question.
I think this is an ism, but I think women sometimes, generally speaking, certainly there are exceptions, but generally speaking, I think conflict is a real issue for women. And we don't know how to hug and make up and move on, right? In large measure. I mean, it's just been something that I think is a learning edge for us. And of course, people, when it comes to conflict, people come to the table with all kinds of their own, tapes and stories and things about how that works. And so avoiding it is often a way they think they're handling it. And then it's, as you know, it just kind of becomes a powder keg. So, relationships are tough, but we gotta continue to hang in there. It's worth the struggle.
It is.
Well, there's no doubt, too. At the cornerstone of every relationship is communication. I mean, communication will take you down. I tell people all the time, 50% of marriages end in divorce. 50% of them. Wow. And they profess their love to God and state, right? And so we, in business and friends that we've got, and our loved ones, if you have to communicate, I would say, as a male in the eWomenNetwork, that one of the things that I see is the very thing you're talking about, is authentic, real communication, what you're really feeling, what's really going on, talking about it, and expressing your realness, especially in male-female relationships, I mean, it could be.
But it's female to female, too.
I was going to say female to female is almost worse.
Relationship with couples of any sort.
Yeah.
I think one of the best practices we've put in place to help overcome this is what we call progress and pinches meetings. Because the progress and pinches meetings allows us to come together and first talk about what are our wins, what's gone really well. It's always good to start a meeting out with, focusing on the things that we are accomplishing, and then calling them, instead of just problems, pinches. Here's where I'm feeling the pinch. Mm-hmm. This pinch is just starting to ache a little bit. This one really hurts, kind of thing. And if you can just have a framework around talking about it, and you do it consistently, like we do every single week, particularly in one of our departments where we've got a new person coming in, and so we add a new person and it kind of upsets the apple cart a little bit. It's really allowed for that conversation to happen before it really, bubbles up. Mm-hmm. And, it's a process I like to spread the word about, because I think we can see now how great it has really helped.
Yeah. No, it's so good. So good.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, hey, a lot of lessons, a lot of takeaways here. I think that we should call this one a wrap.
Okay.
Wouldn't it be great if we had cocktails and people were all just sitting, having our little cocktail, whether it's or a mocktail. This is one of those kind of conversations where they can really go deep. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think that's what I love about the format of this show. We've never been able to sit down and have conversations like this.
Yeah.
So hopefully you as the listener are feeling like you're here with us and just having a real conversation that we can't really have on a stage or in a format, any other format. So I love it. I love it. I love you guys. I love you so much.
This is good stuff, because to make it, you have to work through these things. And we know that our audience, she doesn't just mean business.
She means millions.
Millions.